Excuse me! Taxi!
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Well, hello. You know, we haven't done this in a while because I'm very concerned about the friends who were unfairly prosecuted, persecuted for alleged offenses over January 6th. And, you know, President Trump pardoned like 99% of them, and it was wonderful. I mean, he actually didn't have to do that. And he would have had cover on the left, of course, and even on the right. So President Trump did the right thing, and there was very little in it for him. He just did the right thing, and I think it's beautiful. However, not everybody did get pardoned. Some of the cases are a little bit more complicated. Zach Rehl joins us. Did we get that? Zach, we've talked before. Zach, how are you, first of all? Good to see you or hear you.
Good, yeah. Thanks for having me on again. The fight still goes on for us, some of us, you know, and for those who don't recall who I am, like I said, I'm a military vet, Marine Corps vet. I'm disabled, you know, and I haven't been able to get any of my benefits because of that. But also, like you mentioned, it's, you know, a very complex situation we're going through. You know, like we have to actually still appeal our sentences, basically.
All right, now do me a favor. Let's go through it. What did you do on January 6th? How did you get there, and what did you do once you were there in Washington, D.C.?
So, yeah, I was part of the Proud Boys. We went down there.
And by the way, the Proud Boys. So you're in the Proud Boys. Let's just make sure everybody understands, despite what you heard out of Joe Biden's lying mouth, the Proud Boys are not white supremacists. There are people from all races, orientations. There are some gay Proud Boys. Yes, there are. Straight Proud Boys. Tell us a little bit about what the Proud Boys are, in your opinion.
Well, it's a men's fraternal organization. Fraternities in America have been around since the beginning of our country, the founding of our country. And this one's no different. I mean, like half the group just wants to hang out and get drunk and hang out with each other. And there's a few of us that like to get involved in patriotic events, showing up to support President Trump, things of that nature. You know, nothing out of the ordinary, nothing crazy. And, you know, for me, January 6th wasn't any different. I went to about 30 rallies in the past year by the time January 6th rolled around. And, you know, there was nothing crazy at these rallies. I mean, you know, sometimes you get in a little cross paths with Antifa once in a blue moon, but those are few and far between. Those didn't happen as much as the media made it out to be. But, you know, January 6th, like I said, I went down there. I almost didn't even make the event because, you know, we were drinking the night before and just partying. And then,
hey, man, you know, not for nothing, but maybe a little bit too much drinking. I mean, you got to go easy on the booze. What do you do?
Yeah,
what
sure.
were you doing for a living on January 5th? What did you do? And how old are you?
I'm actually 40 now. I was 36 at the time. I was suffering with the COVID lockdowns like pretty much everybody else because I lived in Philadelphia, so we were still dealing with lockdowns and whatnot. But I used to work for Merrill Lynch, so I did finance work and everything, and I was actually in the process of opening up my own company, but I couldn't do it at the time because the state was all shut down.
I got it. So you show up at your Washington, D.C., then what happens?
We marched around the city a little bit, and then eventually we decided to go start walking to the Capitol because President Trump he's wrapping his speech up and told everybody that you know, let's go protest peacefully and patriotically, get your voices heard. So we're like, all right, well, I guess we're going to go protest at the Capitol now, and you know, and that was pretty much it. I mean, we were all standing around just waiting to see who's going to show up and give a speech there, and you know, next thing you know, we're all getting shot with pepper balls and sprayed with mace and everything, and it was wild. Nothing I expected. Nothing we provoked. Like I said, we didn't know any of that was even going to happen.
No, I mean, I saw the videos. These cops are firing into a peaceful crowd. These pepper spray bullets and smoke grenades, and it's like they're picking a fight with you. Did you go inside the Capitol?
I actually did. About 45 minutes after they were already being let in, me and my friends, and we were on video camera. I was on video camera saying this too. I was like, hey, they're letting people in. You know, they already evacuated the Capitol. I mean, some of us will never be in D.C. again. You guys want to go check out what's going on inside? And they're like, yes, yeah, whatever, sure, why not? And that's when we decided to go in. Like literally completely harmless. Thought we were allowed to go in. Walked in. I walked around, took some pictures for about 15 minutes.
How did you get in? Did you go through a door, a broken window?
Oh, yeah.
How'd you get in?
It was an open door. There was hundreds of people just walking in. And I even talked to cops while I was in there. I walked up to a couple cops. They're like, "Hey, we allowed to go down that hallway?" And they're like, "No, absolutely not. Like, just stay around here and you'll be fine." I'm like, "Okay, all right, cool." But,
all right. So you walk around, then you leave. When were you arrested?
I wasn't arrested for about 2 more months. March 17th, 2021. They came and raided my house, and it looked like they just got done arresting Pablo Escobar. Police cars everywhere, helicopter. I was like, geez. I even said to the FBI agent, I was like, this is a little over the top. Like, I didn't really do anything that day at all. Like, but
what did he say? Because it was over the top, and they did it on purpose. They did it to besmirch, to stigmatize MAGA, not only to get you. And you know, also get Trump, but to end a political movement, the MAGA movement, to make us all look like terrorists and or terrorist sympathizers. That's what they did. And that's why they did what they did. It wasn't about legal. It was about theatrics and politics. And it's horrific what they did. And you know what? You can get somebody killed that way.
Absolutely. I agree 110%. And the moment I was denied bail was like when I first started realizing that this has nothing to do with serving justice that day. This is all about stomping out the MAGA movement and trying to scare Trump off and trying to run for office again.
Had you ever committed a crime before?
No, I haven't. I've never served time in prison or anything.
And so they denied you bail. They denied you bail. What were you charged with? Do you remember?
Yeah, at the time I was charged with that 1512 obstruction of an official proceeding charge. It got thrown out later in the Supreme Court. And like trespassing and standing in restricted grounds, a few misdemeanors. But when we refused to cooperate with the government, which they wanted us to basically just say it was all Trump and this and that, I'm like, no, like, it wasn't all Trump. It wasn't anybody. Like, so yeah, we refused, and then that's when they start tacking on more charges. They came out with a second indictment.
How long were you in jail waiting for your trial?
I want to say it was a little over 2 years, or close to 2 years, maybe a little bit over.
2 years. You were in jail before a trial.
Yes.
That's crazy. That is crazy and un-American. And they were, all right. So did you go to trial or did you enter a plea? What happened?
Oh no, I didn't do anything I was charged with. So I took it to trial with my co-defendants. It was a 6 month trial. It was the longest one out of all of them. And it was an absolute show, literal just show. You know, we'd have all of our motions denied. You know, anytime we caught the government doing something shady, you know, they got protected, but you know, and they were able to cover their crimes up essentially, really, is like I like to call them. And yeah, they watered down all of the charges so much so that like anybody could have been convicted of the seditious conspiracy charge we were ultimately convicted of. So, I mean, the bar was so low, it was almost impossible for this very, very biased jury to rule any other way.
All right. Sorry, this happened in D.C. or Philadelphia, by the way, the trial for you?
D.C., yeah, D.C.
All right. So you get convicted by a trial jury, right?
Yes.
Oh, my God. Yep. And that's in 23. So you already spent 2 years in jail. What was the sentence? What did they sentence you to?
I was sentenced to 15 years. 15 years. The judge even admitted on the witness stand that like I didn't cause any violence. I didn't like break anything. You know, I wasn't out there fighting cops. But you know, he tacked on this terrorism enhancement, which basically gave him more leeway to tack on all this extra time. He's like, I understand you didn't do any of this, but I'm going to give you the terrorism enhancement anyway. And it was just like, oh, wow, cool. Thanks.
So terrible. Now, okay, you're in there. Where'd you go to prison, by the way? Where was the jail?
Well, I spent the first year and a half in FDC Philly. I bounced around a little bit. I did end up at a DC gulag, but ultimately I ended up in Petersburg in Virginia. That was a medium security prison. So first time offender, I had like the lowest points possible for like where I should have been held in custody at. And they bumped me up 2 security levels to be in a medium security prison with all the, you know, rapists, murderers, and the worst kind of people on the planet. You know, the people who were very violent.
What was it like in there for you?
I mean, it was horrible because it was prison for one, and the BOP is just disgrace in general. The inmates didn't treat me too bad, but it was the COs that treated me bad. The COs would always taunt me, or they would, shake my cell down, destroy all my stuff, take my stuff, give it away to other people.
What does CO stand for?
Oh, corrections officer.
And they were harassing you left and right. So,
oh yeah.
But you're released. You're finally released, or are you released with everybody else on January 20th when President Trump issued the pardon and the sentence commutations? Now, I know you didn't get a pardon, more on that, but your sentence was, I believe, commuted the first day President Trump was in office, and you walked out of jail that night or the next morning?
Yes, I got out the next morning. It's basically they didn't have enough staff on hand apparently to get me out right away, so they had to call people in, and then I ended up getting processed out like 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that. So, but basically got out close enough that everybody else that I wasn't complaining too much. But
what was that like? How did that feel? What did that feel like when you walk out of jail and you got the word that you're getting out of there? What was that moment like?
It was amazing. I'm not going to lie. It was definitely amazing. I wasn't even thinking about the commutation versus pardon at the time. I just seen my family. It's the first time I got to hug my daughter in 4 years, so it was awesome. It was really awesome. And first thing I did is I got some real food other than prison food.
Well, how old is your daughter? How old is she?
Well, I have two daughters. I have an older one. She's 21, and then a younger daughter who is turning 5 in a couple months.
Wow, so you missed a lot there.
Oh yeah, I missed the birth of my youngest daughter. My wife was 6 months pregnant when I got arrested. And it was horrible. They actually scheduled one at bail hearings on my wife's due date.
All right, so President Trump, I'm sorry about that too, but President Trump commuted your sentence, but there were, and he said this out loud, there were a handful of people that they had to look a little bit closer at before they pardoned them. And you're in that group. Why are you in that group? You have not been pardoned. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, why not?
The only people who were not pardoned were the people charged with the seditious conspiracy. And there's only 14 of us who were charged with that. And we're, so for whatever reason, we're just on the hook. And all of us, we probably did almost nothing about anybody. I mean, just walked around. Most of us just walked around and left, and we got stuck with this conspiracy. I honestly think it just has to do with groups. We were both in groups. The other guys who were given the sedition, they were part of the Oath Keepers, and I think the government was trying to get off their best chance of getting Trump off the ballots. That was a big thing during election season, with Colorado and everything, and they're trying to tie the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys to President Trump. So they kept tormenting us as much as they could to try and get us to break, so that way we'd go, turn against Trump. But none of us did. So we're probably some of the most loyal people. I'm not saying it's not a measuring contest of any sort, but we were put through the ringer a lot, and we stood our ground and supported President Trump. And it's sad that we're still fighting to try and get our names cleared.
I hear you, and this is a big burden having a felony conviction you got to deal with. Let me just ask you a couple more quick things.
Yep.
The president said he was going to review this. Do you have any indication from the Department of Justice that this conviction is under review, that they're looking at it? Are you communicating with them? Is there a back and forth?
There's no back and forth whatsoever. The only indication we got for anything was we all put in pardon applications, and our pardon has been said to have just been pending. That's it. The only thing we're doing is going through the appeals process and trying to fight it through the appeals court, which has been a whole other hassle of delays and stonewalling and everything.